If you're thinking of investing in any archer commanders, stop and wait till you finish this guide because I made you save you hundreds of gold heads. Alright, so in today's video, I'll be going over the best and cheapest skill formations for every archer commander that will get them at least 90%, even more of their total value. So basically, the way it works is a skill formation is which skills you should max. So you want to, if you were like, example, let's say you're doing Artemisia, if you had a 5, like you max the first skill, max the second skill, max the third skill, you've got a 5, 5, 5, 1 Artemisia. Now, if we start off, we're going to start off like really early game, the commanders you have access to. The first major archer commander you get early game is YSG. So for him, I highly recommend at minimum a 5-5-1-5 YSG. But really, I think he is worth going for that expertise. You get the whole 300 extra damage factor and it's in a circle. So if you really do want to, if you want to invest in YSG, he's one of those commanders you just want to go all the way with. He'll bring you that value. Now, the next commander you'll get is Edward of Woodstock. I don't recommend him at all in general, but unless you're rallying, but let's say you're not and you just want to use him for open field like KVK 2 or 3, maybe you're spending a bit of money. A 5, 5, I would say this skill's also good. So 5, 5, 5, 1, I wouldn't really go for this skill because it's just not worth that extra 330 gold heads or whatever it is. And his expertise is not that amazing. So 5, 5, 5, 1, Edward of Woodstock is probably the cheapest. I reckon you get about 75% of his value from this. So if you do want that last 25%, you can go for it. Now, the next commander you'll probably get is a Tomyris. So for Tomyris, it's a bit luck-based. Her last skill is extremely important. You want that probability at 100% because that adds up all her poison stacks, guaranteed each attack. So without this skill, you're not guaranteed to get the poison stacks, and that just really reduces her effectiveness. So if you have a Tomyris and you get extremely lucky, and let's say you're rallying KVK 2 or 3, you're not rallying KVK 2 or 3, sorry. A 5, 1, 1, 5 Tomyris is probably your best bet. I don't think she's worth going for the expertise. I mean, if you get this second skill is completely useless. I don't recommend it at all. But if you get someone this third skill, this is fine. You get increased attack and you reduce the target's defense. So that's just a nice debuff. And it stacks with Ramses' defense debuff. Forgot to go over the gold key commanders. Really, you're not going to be putting gold heads into gold key commanders. So I guess if you want to be able to use a Thutmose, you'd probably have a 5, 5, 1, 1 Thutmose. However, you're not going to be investing in Thutmose. And if you are, you're just going to be wailing out on him. So then at that point, you may as well max him to get his full effectiveness. 5, 5, 1, 1 probably gets him 50% of his value, I'll say. Because you do miss out on that debuff and you are missing out on the counter attack reduction and the revenge damage. But at that point, he's probably still usable with that 50%. It just won't be amazing. El Cid, he's trash, but if you did want to invest in him, 5, 5, 5, 1 is probably your best bet, or 5, 5, 1, 5, depending on what you would rather, the defense when you get low, or just having base stats in general. El Cid's also, if you had the option in pre-KVK, let's say you're buying yourself the daily special offer, and you're going for an archer commander, and the options are between El Cid and Thutmose. I don't think Thutmose is in the daily, is he? No, he is. Alright, so if your options are between El Cid and Thutmose, you really just want to go for that Thutmose. Thutmose YSG is just a great KVK1 rally. So since Thutmose comes out before YSG does in early game kingdoms, then Thutmose YSG is just a great early game rally. So if you're purchasing the daily special offer, I'd recommend getting a Thutmose if you're a whale. In terms of Ramses, I don't recommend him for a first main Season of Conquest match, because now there's Boudica and Henry. Just these commanders just outdamage him in most situations. But if you are going for a Ramses, I think his best skills are the first, so 5, the second, so 5, 5, 5-1. So you just max the first 3 skills and you're very set with Ramses. You get yourself that defense reduction on your enemies, which stacks with Tomyris' defense reduction. Just keep that in mind. You also get just straight 40% attack, which is just fine. It's just free stats. Next skill, you get a great skill damage reduction just when you're only using archers. So you're not going to really be using Ramses with mixed troops. So when your marchers only consist of archers, you get 30% less skill damage taken, which is just extremely tanky. And when attacked, 10% chance to just gain 80% of stats. And that 40% march speed's great. If you're getting attacked and, like, let's say you're being hit while you're running away and that kicks in, you're just gone. No one's really going to be able to catch you. Besides maybe a Joan who's running like line formation. She might still be able to hit you. But in terms of a 5-5-5-1 Ramses, you're getting probably about 80% of his value. His expertise is quite worth it though. You get the heal immune effect. It's kind of useless, but it's there. And you get that total of 400 extra damage factor. And if you're doing this, the healing factor here, useless. That's actually more of a hindrance, if anything. But you have a 10% chance to also gain 40% defense. So really, Ramses is just a stat machine. In total, if everything triggered, you'd have 40. So that's 120. Sorry, yeah, 120 plus 30% there. So you're looking at 190% of stats, which is just crazy. So Ramses at 5-5-5-1 is his cheapest effective skill formation. You could use him at 5-5-1-1 or 5-1-5-1. That's also another good option. However, he's probably just worth maxing if you're just going to go for him. But if you don't, just that 5-5-5-1 is your best bet. Next up, I'm going to switch this back to Archer Commanders. Next up, I'm going to go over Cyrus. Cyrus has great debuff on his first active skill. That additional damage taken is only additional damage factor. Something that I covered in my Archer talent guide. The card is in the top now. So Cyrus actually causes the target to take 20% additional damage factor. So that makes Ramses even more powerful. So if you're running a Cyrus Ramses, that could work. So you would probably just want the Cyrus as the primary. But 5-5-5-1 is a great loadout for Cyrus. However, Cyrus's skills are all great for the open field. That's why I personally max my Cyrus, since his final skill, after using an active skill, you gain 40% of stats for 3 seconds and extra 50 rage per second. So that's an extra 150 rage from just throwing that active skill, but it's per turn, so you're not risking that over raging. Going over, I think it's 220 rage. I was searching it up. So really, 5-5-5-1 Cyrus will do you quite well. I used him at that. He was fine. But maxing Cyrus is also worth it if you just want that extra rage engine. And just that extra, the value on this last skill with the AoE to enemies when they attack you. Now, Nebu, this commander, some people debate about like his best skills. If I were to decide, I would say, obviously you want to max that first skill for that great damage factor. You want to max that second skill. So 5-5-1-5 if you can get that. If not, I've been using my Nebu at 5-5-1-1 and he's doing fine. 30% increased defense, 15% march speed. That's a great amount of stats. Defense is extremely useful. However, this last skill is extremely powerful. You can deal 15% all damage. That's all damage. And each normal attack has a 10% chance to reduce the target's rage by 100. Keep in mind, rage reduction applies after they gain their rage. So if they go over the rage cap and you reduce that rage by a further 100, they just get wrecked. So that skill is extremely good. So a 5-5-1-5 Nebu is probably your best bet. He's not worth maxing. It's only a bit more damage factor to one target, so I wouldn't bother. But if you're rallying, you will have to max Nebu just for this skill, which is really good. But yeah, 5-5-1-5 Nebu is just great, and 5-5-1-1 is quite usable. Now Gilgamesh is weird because he's a rally commander, but he does provide a very good debuff. I spoke about him quite a bit in the Archer Guide video for the best marches, the best combinations. That will be on the end screen of this video. So for Gilgamesh, I recommend a 5-5-1-5. If you don't care about his final extra 5% less total damage. Sorry, less normal attack, so counter attack and normal attack. And also the 15% increased skill damage debuff. If you don't care about those, then the 5-5-1-5 Gilgamesh will do great. 5-5-1-1 can work, but you're missing out on a lot of stats here, and you're missing out on making his blood craving debuff just that much more potent. So I think if I were to use Gilgamesh without maxing him, I would go 5-5-1-5. I personally plan on maxing him. I want that debuff, and I want that extra less damage from normal attacks. So if you do max him, you won't regret it, I don't think. And pretty much that's all we have for Gilgamesh. Don't forget, if you're rallying, you do have to max him all the way. Now, in terms of Henry, I got very unlucky. You can see here I tried to get him at 5-5-1-5. I got 5-5-4-2. But Henry's great. He's just a stat powerhouse at the moment, and because of the power creep, he's probably one of the top commanders. So if you're running a Henry, you have to max that first skill. So 5, and then that second skill is really good. You get 40% of stats plus the march speed outside of territory. His third skill is a rally skill, wouldn't really bother with it. And then his fourth skill is just increased archer damage, which is normal attack and counter attack. And whenever you're attacked, you can deal direct damage factor back onto the target of 800. I think that's the highest revenge damage of most commanders in the game. His final skill is actually quite good. When a troop reaches 70% rage, they deal 30% more normal attack, so 30% more counter attack and attack. Otherwise, so if they're below 70% rage, you take 20% less normal attack damage. So you're just taking 20% less attack and counter attack. This is a great skill. I personally, with my Henry, want a 5-5-1-5 Henry. But if I, at some point in the future, if I have no commanders I want to invest in, because I don't think I'll go past 3 marches, maybe 4 at the most. If I don't have any commanders, I'll probably take that Henry up to max just for this extra value on his last skill. Boudica, quite simply, you want to max her. She's great maxed. Her final skill is really, really good. It's not all damage, as people say. It's not. It's just attack and normal attack. So counter attack and normal attack, because increases damage dealt by archers. If it specifies the unit, it's just counter attack and normal attack. And when she's under control effect, she has an 80% chance to dispel them. So Guan Yu's silence, Artemisia's self-silence, she dispels that. Disarm, so El Cid's disarm she would dispel, and heal immune she gets rid of. Heal immune's probably useless, but if you don't end up maxing that final skill, if you don't really care about being silenced by Guan, or you're not rocking an Artemisia with your Boudica, then her best skill formation, you want to max that first skill, you want to max this second skill, and you want to max this third skill. The fourth skill is pretty alright. This is all damage, increased damage to infantry. The healing factor is not very useful, but it's there. So if you're going for a Boudica, I recommend a 5-5-5-1 without maxing her. But if you are maxing her, then just, you won't regret it. I've used her maxed. You can see here, my Boudica's got like 15 million kills. So she's great maxed regardless. In terms of Artemisia, someone who you really would want to pair with a Boudica or an Amanitore, Artemisia's first skill is extremely powerful. This is 1,800 damage factor to 3 targets. It's not as good as Nebu's AoE, but it can be. It's probably on par with YSG's, I would say. Or maybe just a bit less, actually. Because she doesn't get that damage to 5 targets, only up to 3. Her second skill is probably one of her most powerful skills. You're looking at a 20% defense bonus and a 20% health bonus. That's great. Those are 2 most premium stats, and they've put her both on Artemisia. 40% of extremely powerful stats is amazing. And then her third skill, just for garrison, this isn't useful. At this point, Artemisia is a pretty useless garrison. She's no longer as powerful as she used to be. This may change when they release new archer commanders, but I don't know when that's going to be, since they did just release a round of leadership and, strangely enough, ranged commanders. And then her third skill, this skill is really good. 80% chance to silence her troops for 3 seconds, but she grants them 50% increased all damage for 5 seconds. So it's a 50% chance to silence. So the thing with this is, it silences you, so you won't throw your active skill. So people like to use this with the Tomyris, because you don't really want to throw Tomyris as active skill. You just want to stack poison. But another very good use for Artemisia has been with Boudica if you max her. So if you're not putting Artemisia behind a Boudica and you're not maxing Boudica, then if you don't want to be silenced, I recommend a 5-5-0-0 Artemisia, because that 25% increased all damage is really just going to hinder you in most open field battles when you get silenced. But if you're putting Artemisia behind a silence immune or like a high chance to become silence immune commander, such as Boudica or Amanitore down here, then you'll want to max Artemisia's third skill. So 5-5-1-5 is her best loadout if you can actually put her behind a commander she synergizes well with. In terms of maxing her, I don't really like this final skill because it causes the target to deal extra skill damage. When Artemisia was first released, this was great since most people were using commanders like Attila Takeda and Richard. Richard has no skill damage, Attila Takeda have no skill damage. So this was actually really, really good. This extra damage per second. I mean, it is an extra 1,200 damage factor. And it is additional damage per second. So Cyrus's debuff will influence that. Basically, this is up to you if you want to go for this. If you want that extra damage factor, then do it. But just keep in mind that if you're fighting something like a Nevsky and you're giving them even more skill damage, they're really just going to start wrecking you. So I personally wouldn't get this skill. If I were to go for Artemisia, 5-5-1-5 is her best formation. Best loadout in my opinion. Now, final commander, someone who only pairs well with Artemisia. I've seen some weird combos where you're like trying to put her with Nebu, but doesn't really synergize well. And it just gets a bit confusing. So if you really just want to have a good commander here with someone, Amanitore and Artemisia is your best bet. Now, with Amanitore, quite simply put, you have to max her. You have to make her immune to silence. Otherwise, she basically becomes useless when paired with Artemisia. So you don't want to use Amanitore unless she's maxed. The only time I could see using an Amanitore unmaxed is with Nebu. And even then, it's not that good of a combo. You'd probably use a 5-5-1-5 Amanitore just for that revenge damage. But there's no point, in my opinion. She's just not that good with him. Plus, her expertise guarantees to reduce the target's rage by 200 over 2 seconds. So that's really, really good. Pretty much, if you want to put Amanitore with anyone, you have to end up maxing her. So, I hope this video brought you some great value in Rise of Kingdoms. If you did enjoy, please do like, subscribe. Anything you post in the comments, I will reply. If you want any assistance on what marches you should use, first check out my video, card up in the top now and on the end screen. And thank you for watching till the end.